what separates a man who commands a room from one who merely occupies it? It's not the words he speaks, it's the silence he knows how to fill. Most people treat conversation like a transaction. They're waiting for their turn to talk, rehearsing their next line while you're still speaking. That's not dialogue. That's two monologues running parallel, never touching. And people feel it. They feel the emptiness behind your smile, the script you're reading from, the desperate need to be interesting instead of interested. I've sat across from men who could buy and sell cities, and I've stood in rooms where one wrong word meant a bullet. You learn quickly. Small talk isn't small. It's the door, and most people are knocking wrong. The truth. People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. Seen. Real conversation isn't about filling silence with noise. It's about creating a moment where someone feels like they matter, where their words land on solid ground instead of echoing in an empty room. That's the difference between talking at someone and talking with them. And that difference, that changes everything. Let me tell you something about power that nobody wants to admit. Real power isn't in the gun you carry or the money in your account. It's in the room you walk into where nobody knows your name, and somehow by the time you leave, they feel like they've known you for years. That's not charm, that's strategy. And the first rule of strategy is this: stop trying to be the most interesting person in the room. Stop being the most interested. I've watched men destroy themselves trying to impress strangers. They walk into conversations armed with stories, achievements, clever observations they've been rehearsing in their heads. And you know what happens? The other person smiles, nods, waits for the performance to end, because that's all it is, a performance, and people can smell performance from a mile away. It reeks of insecurity. It screams that you need their validation more than you need their company. And the moment someone senses that need, you've already lost. Here's what actually happens when you master conversation. You walk into a room, and you're not scanning for exits or opportunities. You're looking at faces. You're reading the room like it's a book written in a language most people forgot how to speak. That woman by the window, she's standing alone, but her shoulders are relaxed. She wants company, not rescue. That man at the bar, he's checking his watch, but his drink is still full. He's waiting for someone who's late, which means he's already frustrated. Approach him now, and you're walking into fire. These details matter. They're the difference between connection and collision. When you do approach someone, forget everything you think you know about opening lines. There's no magic phrase, no perfect joke. What matters is that you're present, completely present. Most people occupy physical space while their mind is somewhere else, planning, analyzing, judging. You can see it in their eyes. They're looking at you but not seeing you. When I talk to someone, I'm there, fully there. My mind isn't on the next meeting or the last conversation. It's on them, and people feel that. They feel it in their bones, because in a world where everyone is distracted, attention is the rarest currency. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They think conversation is about exchanging information. It's not. It's about creating a feeling. Think about the last conversation you had that you actually enjoyed. I guarantee you don't remember the exact words that were said. You remember how it felt. You remember that moment when the other person said something and you thought, yes, exactly. Someone finally understands. That's what you're aiming for. Not agreement. Recognition. The feeling that you're both looking at the same truth from different angles. So how do you create that? You ask questions that nobody else asks. Not interview questions. Not the tired script of where are you from, what do you do, how do you know the host. Those questions are death. They're the conversational equivalent of reading a manual. Instead, you pay attention to what someone actually says, and you dig one layer deeper. Someone mentions they just moved to the city. Everyone asks where from. You ask what made them decide now. That's different. That's personal. Without being invasive. It shows you're listening not just to respond, but to understand. And here's the secret that most people never learn. Silence is not your enemy. In fact, silence is where the real conversation happens. When you ask someone a meaningful question, and they pause to think, don't rush to fill that space. Don't panic and start talking. Let them think. Let them find the words. That pause, that moment of reflection, that's when they're actually connecting with what they're saying. And when someone shares something real, something they had to dig for, they're not just talking to you anymore. They're thinking alongside you. That's intimacy. That's the thing people remember. But you have to give something too. Conversation is not an interrogation. You can't just mine someone for information and offer nothing in return. The trick is vulnerability without victimhood. Share something real, but don't make it a burden. I don't walk up to someone and tell them my life story. But if we're talking about risk, I might mention a moment when I bet everything on a decision that could have destroyed me. Not for sympathy, not for admiration, just as proof that I understand what it means to stand on the edge. That vulnerability, controlled, purposeful, that's what creates trust. People don't trust perfection, they trust scars. And while we're talking about trust, let's address the thing that kills more conversations than anything else. Agenda. People can smell agenda, the way dogs smell fear. If you're talking to someone because you want something from them, they know. Maybe not consciously, but they feel it. Their guard goes up. The conversation becomes a game of defense. You're trying to extract value and they're trying to protect it. Nobody wins. The best conversations I've ever had were the ones where I wanted absolutely nothing except the conversation itself. No network, no favor, no angle. Just two people existing in the same moment, sharing thoughts like they're passing a bottle back and forth. That's when the magic happens. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds exhausting. Being present, reading people, asking deep questions, offering vulnerability. It sounds like work. And you're right, it is work. But here's what nobody tells you. The alternative is worse. The alternative is spending your entire life having surface-level interactions with people you'll never really know. It's smiling at strangers and forgetting their names before you finish shaking their hands. It's walking through a world full of people and feeling completely alone because you never learned how to actually connect. That's the real exhaustion. Not the effort of genuine conversation, but the emptiness of avoiding it. Let me tell you about a conversation I had once. I was in a pub, waiting for a meeting that never happened. There was a man at the bar. Older, weathered, drinking whiskey like he was trying to erase something. I could have ignored him. I could have stayed in my corner, minding my business. But I saw something in the way he held that glass, like it was the only thing keeping him anchored. So I sat down next to him. Didn't say a word at first. Just ordered a drink. After a minute I said, "Looks like you're drinking to forget." He looked at me, surprised anyone noticed. Then he smiled, sad smile, and said something like that. We talked for 2 hours, about loss, about choices, about the weight of living with decisions you can't undo. I never saw him again, but I think about that conversation more than I think about most of the strategic meetings I've had in my life. Because it was real, it mattered. Not because it advanced any goal, but because for 2 hours, two strangers were honest with each other. That's rare, that's valuable. That's what people are actually searching for when they make small talk. They're hoping for something real. So here's my final word on this. Small talk is only small if you make it small. Every conversation is a door. Most people knock and walk away when nobody answers immediately. But if you're patient, if you're present, if you actually care about the person on the other side, that door opens. And what you find isn't just another acquaintance to add to your list. It's a human being with a story as complex as yours, with fears and dreams and moments of beauty they've never shared with anyone. And if you're lucky, if you've done this right, they'll share one of those moments with you. Not because you're charming or clever, but because you made them feel like their words mattered. That's not small talk, that's connection. And in a world that's increasingly disconnected, that's everything.